I'm going live. Hello, everyone. When evil. Welcome to the platform and core development update. We are here with the platform and core teams.
Hello, everyone. When evil. Welcome.
Okay, I'm echoing. Yeah, thank you very much. We're planning this session for 60 minutes. And if you have any questions or any feedbacks, other than when evil, which we'll try to address later, don't worry. Please feel free to raise in the chat below. And also keep in mind, if you have any feedbacks other than, or not just questions, let us know as well. All right. What else do we have? I need to share screen, that's for sure. So let me start with that. And after sharing the presentation and starting the slideshow, without further ado, I'm passing the word to Tenderdash and Łukasz.
Hi, my name is Łukasz. I'm a member of the Tenderdash development team. So in the last period of time, we did work on two versions of Tenderdash. First one is 0.11 and second is 0.12. But we didn't do too much changes. Namely, we released new version of 0.11, which is a full release, and it contains two changes. One is a bug fix for some REST web RPC web service, and second is update of a related library -go to support new type of LLMQ quorum that is used on our test networks and dev networks. So this was like a small change that needed to be introduced. But to do that, we had to release that -go library, which is just a Go binding for Dash core. So we have released that in version 0.24. And also we worked on stabilization and improvement of version 0.12, which we are right now testing. So also the similar changes were done, and as in version 0.11, and we also created a pre-release that is 0.12 dev2. So the 0.11 is a full release, 0.11 that we believe is stable right now, and we are testing 0.12, which is in a pre-release state. So that's more or less it on our side. In terms of what we need to do before testing phase, is just some small adjustment of vote extensions in order to get withdrawal of transactions done, but this is just waiting for other teams to finish their work, and that's when we'll be able to finalize.
Hasn't changed for months, right?
Yeah, that's the same slide. We can just play it around. Yeah, but it's not a big task, just some synchronization. And last thing we are working on is that Rust bindings for Tenderdash, which is an external library that allows us to integrate, to do integration between our platform that is written in Rust directly with Tenderdash. So currently platform is partially written in JavaScript, and this connectivity was implemented in JavaScript. We are migrating into the Rust with that. So we did some improvements like faster build time thanks to downloading the definitions using HTTPS instead of just cloning the repository. Some technical changes, small tuning, but basically that library is more or less ready, but still not stable, of course. It can change. And we did a prototype integration with platform where we started a server that is just listening and connecting between the Rust drive ABCI component and tender dash. So the connectivity works, and it's already, like some will mention that later, that it's already in use. And also we did some
Don't give up.
validators. Yeah.
Don't give the secret.
Oh,
Don't
sorry. Sorry, it was, yeah. Yeah, but basically that part of code is all done, and also we have some validator set update implemented inside the RS platform, because tender dash needs list of validators, and now the RS drive ABCI component inside platform can determine that and can provide it to tender dash. So that's more or less it on my side. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to GroveDB for a second. Wisdom, would you kick us off?
Hey guys, my name is Wisdom from the GroveDB team. So the last task that we had on GroveDB was the verification bindings. C bindings for the verification functions in RS Drive. Last time it was in progress, but this is done now. So the current verification functions we have on RS Drive, we have created C bindings for those, and this has been merged in. So this provides like a good base to add more like verification functions in the future. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Ivan, would you continue with protocol?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Balazs. Hey, everyone. This sprint, we continue to work towards the Core 19 release and HPMN high performance master node registration. We had like several tasks. One of them, the handle quorum rotation failure, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's tip 24, right? The implementation of the additional security check in case if the rotated quorums had DKG failures, and it opens some attack vector for the platform, and we need to add the security mechanism to prevent such attack. So in case if the quorum what we used to sign this instant lock identity funding, we need to invalidate such state transitions and request from the client to use chain lock proofs for this case. The next task has been done together with the incubator, Mikhail, the developer from incubator and infrastructure team. Finally, we made Dashmate works together with deployment tool. So now we don't need to duplicate infrastructure for the devnets and to start the singular nodes and local development. So we use Dashmate inside deployment tool on our devnet and testnet nodes to start the high performance master nodes. It works already, and in the future we will replace other node types like master nodes and full nodes to utilize Dashmate for these needs. So it will simplify the deployment tool, and we won't need to update infrastructure twice, like in Dashmate and in deployment tool, if we need to incorporate any changes there. We worked, like Mikhail especially worked pretty long on this task, so congrats. It was a huge. The next thing, if you remember, a sprint ago, we talked about the Dashmate distribution, and we're building the self-contained packages for Dashmate, so you don't need to use only like npm registry to install the Dashmate on your local machine. Now you can use a package for Mac, for Windows, and this sprint we implemented the packages as well for Dashmate. For now, it's not distributed through the registry yet. it's a task for infrastructure. Hello, Leon, for the upcoming days. So the next one is pretty, I would say, should be pretty interesting for masternode owners, since we decided to use Dashmate as the official package to set up your high-performance masternode. I think we already talked about the rationale of it many times. So basically, for the high-performance masternode owners, this tool will allow to set up your node and run it.
There we go.
Excellent. So the work for you, Sam.
Yeah, there's no need to talk about this slide. It's the same thing as always.
Okay.
Just move on.
Let's go.
As people might be aware, like as we just had one thing in GroveDB, TenderDash, it was heavily just like some small stability fixes and releasing. There was no massive task. All work that's currently happening, well, not all work, but 95% of the work on the platform side is happening on Rust ports. So
Yeah.
go on to Rust ports.
Yep. Hello, everybody. Anton's here. And I'll start with what we said during the last update. During the last update, we said that during that sprint, we're going to finish the integration work for the platform to produce a build of platform v24. What makes platform v24 so special, you might ask? Well, the best way to describe what v24 is a beta of the platform v1, essentially. And in fact, our current expectation is to deploy the very first DevNet with v24 this week. This is a very exciting moment for us, as this is a culmination of all this work we've been doing so far. So on this note, I'll pass the word to Igor to talk about the technical details of what has been done during the sprint, what's left, and what are our current challenges. Thank you, guys. Igor, please.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, Anton. This is Igor from Platform Protocol team. This sprint, we made a great progress. We made a great progress integrating the whole project with Rust DPP. And as you see in the title, it says Rust DPP integration with SDK, DAPI, and Drive. And what does it mean? It means that when, for example, we create an identity using JavaScript SDK, it goes via DAPI to TenderDash, then to JS Drive, to RS Drive, and then response goes back to JS SDK. And now we have all components using Rust DPP instead of JS DPP. Well, even though TenderDash and RS Drive were not directly affected by Wasm DPP integration, I mentioned them to illustrate the state transition lifecycle. All bullet points in the list that are marked as done are tested on a small-scale reg test network operated by Dashmate. So basically, all components mentioned above were refactored, assembled together, and currently producing valid results according to our platform test suite specification. We have only two components that are still in progress, which are data contract update and document delete. And they are tested by unit and integration tests, and we need to adjust a few things before consider them reliable for testing on reg test network. And the next step after the whole platform test suite is passing in Dashmate is DevNet, as Anton mentioned. Besides that, we are also done with the infrastructure part of the integration. Docker images for DAPI, Drive, and Dashmate needed Wasm DPP inside. And as I mentioned a few weeks ago, this was particularly interesting thing because standard Alpine image we used was not capable of building Wasm bingen and hence Wasm DPP. So eventually our infra team prepared a custom Swiss knife Docker image, which can build Rust, Wasm, and JavaScript. And we are going to use this image in 3 different projects in DAPI, Touchmate, and Thrive. So this is it from my side. Also, yeah, sorry, forgot to mention one more thing. We also refactored consensus error handling, and we brought many improvements here that will simplify our lives a lot. And yeah, the development experience should also be much better when the errors are right and well expressing the situation well. So yeah, this is it from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, there is also one more thing we've been working in parallel, and that's the cross checks for JS DPP and WASM DPP test. This remains the thing that's left in the sprint since we've talked about the last time, and this is going to continue for a little while. What is it about essentially is that we had some unit tests. Unit tests are the tests that test like very specific piece of code in isolation, and we haven't finished all of them. We finished most of them, but not all of them. And as our progress shows that the most almost everything works. So those would be like some fine tunings and to find some minor bugs if we have any. And we are doing this in parallel to the main work for the integration of WASM DPP and producing a V24 build. So as we've just discussed, we are projecting that we're going to deliver first DevNet with platform V24 this week. And we're going to spend the sprint adding the finishing touches before the first DevNet deployment. And we're going to deploy to the DevNet. And then we are going to start fine-tuning for the platform V24 broader release for the testnet. We still have some work to do. We still have to run a DevNet for some time to observe if there are any bugs, if it's stable enough to be on the testnet. And there is still work left on the bug fixes and things of that matter. But I can't stress enough what an important moment this is for us. This would be the first beta release of Dash platform we've been building for so long, and everybody on this team is extremely excited about it. I want to thank the team for amazing work they've done and to make this moment finally come. So stay tuned for the updates, and thank you very much.
All right. I think you already addressed the what's left slide. We have one slide for that as well.
Yes, I just did.
All right. No, that's okay. That's okay. I think we can move on to Sam.
Yeah, let's.
You ready, Sam?
Yes, I'm ready. But I first want to thank all the people that worked, very, very hard last week, and a lot of people worked this weekend. It really, trying to get this over the finish line. So on to the next part. And I'm gonna, before I kind of talk about this part, I'd like to give a little history lesson, but can we move slides?
Sure.
One more.
One more.
Sorry, this terrible insect set on me.
Okay.
Okay, one more.
This is a new section, which is the Drive Executor Rust port update. And yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about a history lesson first of where we were and what we've done so far and how things have come really quite far in the last year and a half. So towards the end of 2022, I would say December 2022, we could take that. What we had, so I kind of explained like what our current system was, what our system we needed, and what we did. Now, this is not an exhaustive list because we also needed things like validator set rotation core. We needed a lot of other features that I just have not put in here, but because I just didn't want to talk for 2 hours. But this is a kind of a smaller list of everything. So we were not in a great situation where we had 2 instances of Merck and 2 instances of MongoDB to represent state. It was a prototype system. There's no way that that can go to production. We were using 2 instances of Merck and 2 instances of MongoDB because only Merck could do proofs and only MongoDB could actually query data. And there was kind of like a hack to make it all work together, but obviously using 4 instances of data of any data is going to cause a lot of problem. Plus, you're basically paying for 4 times the storage. So what we needed was a single database based off of pretty advanced research and able to do proofs, secondary indexes, omission proofs, everything. This is the first 2 lines. So we built that. That's GroveDB. That's all done. We also at that point had same block execution, and same block execution doesn't work for us. And nobody had done, same block execution works for us. We had next block execution, meaning that the proof we got happened 1 block later. Now, that did not work for us. And it was actually in the Tendermint roadmap, Tendermint, which is the Cosmos project, or it's not really Cosmos project, but they're very related. And they had that in their roadmap, but they just didn't get around to it. We built it. We built same block execution, and it's done, Tenderdash. We also had a centralized forking mechanism, which basically was DCG decides when we fork. Terrible. We can't do that. So we built a decentralized forking mechanism that's in Drive ABCI. Now the validators update, and when enough validators have updated, they switch from one protocol version to the next protocol version. Done. Next one. Next slide, please. And then about 1.5 years ago, I talked about the Rust rewrite. So our big topic for the Rust rewrite was writing drive logic and validation DPP logic and structures as a first step. The thing is that at that point, we had 95%, well, other than Tenderdash, everything was in JavaScript. And we wanted to move away from JavaScript for reasons that I've given in previous calls. The thing is that we wanted to do this iteratively, mostly because, well, doing everything at once, you're not going to be able to manage anything, right? So we decided to create a team for rewriting DPP, which is kind of the structures and validation, and we're rewriting that in Rust. And at the same time, all the new functionality would be written in Rust as well, outside of Tenderdash, which is written in already a very good language called Golang. The plan that we made was that we were going to not rewrite everything for mainnet release, but we were going to rewrite DPP and what I said, basically what we could do. And we were going to release a first version with just the executor still written in JavaScript, and everything else pretty much rewritten. Now, what has happened is we got to a point where, GroveDB is done. Like, there's nothing more to do there. Tenderdash is done. Nothing more to do that. The drive logic done. Nothing really more to do there. So we got to a point where we put as many people as we could on the DPP Rust port, which was needed because there's a lot of new functionality there. So we had to do that for mainnet. And then the people that, well, otherwise would have nothing to do, we put them on the first post MVPs big task, and that is rewrite the execution app. Now, it's gone so far extremely well for about 10 days. And I'd like to talk about how it's going. So people know right now, the current plan is still to go with v24 to mainnet. However, if this is done by the same time that we're going to, by the same time that we were going to release, obviously we will include it. So we'll assess that in a week or two. Let's go on to the actual tasks and what's involved. So the first big part is building Tender-ABCI server, and Lucas had talked about that, and that's done. We've been able to integrate it, and we've been getting the responses from Tender-, and it works very well. To be able to do this this work, we have to build out methods for, we have to build out a certain number of methods. There were about 10 methods that needed to be done. And so far we've done about 5, and we've done the bigger ones. So basically the initialization of the chain, preparing a block proposal, processing a block proposal, finalizing a block proposal, all the querying mechanisms, and checking of transactions. That is the bulk of the work. And the reason why this can be done so quickly is because, well, we have a lot of, we had over the last year, a lot of it already written for mocks, for test mocks. So at this point, it's going extremely, extremely well. And the last thing to do here is to verify the block commit message that is currently being worked on. Now, this is not all the stuff that's needed. So we're going to continue on, and I'll explain everything that's needed to do this. And then I'll also talk about the benefits. Actually, I think the next slide is the benefits. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're also working on these. Well, we have to kind of understand what needs to be ported. So you have the base methods for the base functionality, and then you have other stuff still written in JavaScript for some additional logic that isn't really on the base, but for some features. So validator set rotation is one of them. For the system to work, well, you don't need to rotate the master nodes, but obviously we want to rotate the master nodes so everybody gets paid, right? You can start the chain, but obviously we want to rotate and have everybody paid and have the same functionality. So that's actually done right now. We ported, so there's also the concept in our system of masternode identities, which are the representation of a masternode inside a platform. So like that, you can create contracts for masternodes to vote on. For example, if you wanted to make a contract that masternode voters could vote on a specific governance item or a specific election or something like that, you can do that very easily. That's actually currently in progress. One thing that's also really cool here is atomic state transitions, meaning that a state transition composed of multiple sub-events are atomic. That's actually not the case in JavaScript. And this is one of the things that I'm going to talk a lot about in the following slides, and why this is actually extremely nice to have. It allows for, well, yeah, I'll get onto that. Validation to use synchronous calls. Currently, our validation is all in DPP, and it's using asynchronous calls because we are on the the validation happens at the server level, using synchronous calls is actually a lot easier for now. And moving everything to asynchronous would actually take a lot more time and wouldn't actually give a lot of benefit. Updated and improved the testing framework. Yes. So before, our testing framework for the executor was actually based off of what was it? It was based off of execution events, not state transitions. So now everything in our testing framework is state transitions for the executor that is currently being built. And actually, the big achievement today was that it actually ran. So it ran, it produced blocks, it produced identities, but as soon as we tried to enter a contract, it stopped right there. But that literally happened about an hour and a half ago, and it's probably a small thing to do. Like, we're making heaps of progress every day on this. So the goal is actually to have something out and running in the upcoming few weeks. When we started working on this, I had estimated that it would take about 2 months, and we're at about 10 days right now, and well over 50% done. So next slide. Yeah, so what do we gain from doing this? Currently, the app is JavaScript, and Rust on average is 75% more performant than JavaScript in many, many benchmarks. And there's a big reason why we're moving to Rust. It's, a lot of the industry, blockchain industry is using Rust. And I don't actually think we will get 70% more performance by this switch. These are just averages. I'm expecting that the JavaScript code is written in a certain way that it's already quite optimized, but we're going to know. We're going to know probably in the next 2 weeks the different speed of the two versions. So we'll let you know next sprint. The performance will run benchmarks, we'll saturate a network, and we'll let you know how much of a difference we see. The negative part of all this and using this version is that it is far less tested, but obviously we can improve that. But yes, Rust in general is much easier to maintain since checks are happening on the compiler level. It's very, very hard to actually write a I'm not going to say it's hard to write a bug, but it's hard to write a memory issue, a memory leak, or an issue that would cause a panic if you write code in a proper way. All of our Rust code is called Rust safe code. We don't use unsafe Rust. So to that end, when we do encounter errors, we're encountering generally business logic errors and never Rust language errors. Excuse me. Sorry. So we also, one other thing is that this leads to faster development speed. We've seen it. Writing Rust is a lot faster because you don't have all the weird errors that might happen in JavaScript that are much harder to debug. It's also going to allow for atomic state transitions. And atomic state transitions are really, really, really interesting because we can do things like atomic swaps, and they'll actually allow an identity to exchange a balance with another identity and the database write to happen atomically. currently in our version, if there's an error on a state transition and something happens, and then the second part of that state transition doesn't happen, we have to completely destroy the whole block and start over. So atomic state transitions can improve this and generally will make it so the state, even on a transaction, can never be in a corrupted state. Yeah, and also we remove a few hacks and we replace things with cleaner solutions. I guess that goes without saying. Let's continue on. So what's left to do? So to basically complete this task, there were things marked in progress before, and we have to do all those things. That's the big chunk of the work left. We have to do vote extensions, and vote extensions allow for withdrawals. We have to integrate validation costs, and we also have to implement just-in-time atomic state transition payments. Just-in-time atomic state transition payments are actually a feature that was presented about a month ago in GroveDB, where you can have a partial batch update. And the partial batch update basically allows for you to say, okay, I'm going to do this, this state transition, but tell me how much it's going to cost. And then you get back the cost, and then you include the cost change to an identity before applying the batch, making it like much more, atomic operation. And it's actually a really cool feature. It's not currently built out in JavaScript, so having this will also allow for a more clean system, right? And then we have to just do more tests, write more tests, write more tests, write more tests, run it, see what happens. So there's one of two things that is basically going to happen at this point. We're either going to enter the testing phase with v24, which is the version without this, or basically when that's ready. So what's going to happen probably is v24 is going to enter DevNet this week. They're going to be fixing errors on it probably next week. This will probably also enter a DevNet, maybe not this week, but early next week. That's my estimate at the moment. And we'll also be testing and seeing what's going on. And then we can basically assess what is stable, performant. It's a tall order that this one is going to be more stable and performant, because basically it is, very new, and this was supposed to happen after mainnet release. But hey, until we actually run it, we won't know. So it's going to be quite interesting over the next 2 weeks to see how things go. And I'm very, very, very excited, actually, because we're going to see the whole system running, and both on v24, and I'm going to guess this is going to be called v25. Okay.
Can we move on to core update?
Okay. Hello, guys, from core side. Quick update on v19 testing status. So we continue with testing on testing networks. So far we fixed several bugs introduced mostly in v19 HPMN registration and handling ProTX transactions. So all those were fixed in RC8. And then we still got issues with the masternodes proof of service scoring and bans. Turns out the root of those bans were P2P bans on intra masternodes communication during quorum formation. So there is currently a beta number 9 deployed later yesterday to testnet. And good news, it looks good so far. So no proof of service ban so far. So really happy to see this result today. There is still pending, so obviously RC10, so including this fix. We also fixed minor bugs found on the Qt clients regarding high performance masternode payment projection. So I'm referring to the masternode stubs. All right, so the plan is now that we have a stable testnet, we will continue deploying HPMNs because currently we only have like, I think around 5. So we need at least 22 to have the new HPMN platform forming, LMQ forming, sorry. The plan is to start registering more and more HPMNs today and eventually tomorrow. We still need to continue with the global testing. We need to make sure that CoinJoin is working with the new BLS scheme, for example, and of course, regarding governance, that proposals voted by HPMNs have 4 times the weight of as expected. I'll leave to Basta so he can talk about the global plan.
Yeah, sure. So we actually think that these proof of service issues on testnet that we fixed have probably been present for quite a period of time, and it seems like they only affect relatively smaller networks that are very chaotic, could be a good word. Networks that have a lot of changing master nodes, there's a lot of master nodes going down and coming back up, stuff like that, caused these issues to appear. There's still good issues to fix, and I'm glad we were able to resolve those in what was beta 9 and will become RC10. Yeah, so far beta 9 has been deployed on our master nodes for I think 2 or 3 days now, and we've seen no issues. There are no proof of service bans, and we're really quite close on a final release. We have to get these HPMNs deployed. There were some infrastructure issues that have kind of and tooling issues that have stopped us from being able to easily deploy a number of them. So we've had HPMNs for pretty much the entire testing cycle, but we haven't had them at scale. And so that's where we're at right now, is getting additional HPMNs deployed. And we'll probably know in the next 3 days how things are going with that. And so looking over at the right-hand side here, you can see the 7th is my goal right now to tag and say, this is final. We are happy with V19 and we're ready for it to get released. So that, is contingent on the HPMN testing and what we are doing on testnet right now, but I'm really pretty confident with where we're at. and this might get pushed a little bit, but I'm really pushing for us to be able to get this release out and wrap up V19 so that we can really focus on V20 feature work now. So yeah, we can go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about the feature work that we're doing. Primarily, the feature work recently has been on backports and in our changing over to GUIX. A lot of stuff doesn't really show progress here, but there has been quite a bit of progress. It's just that, moving from 20% to 80% is still in progress, so we don't really get to update the slide here. But GUIX specifically is a lot closer now than what it was. We merged, I think, something like 20 backports plus modifications, and GUIX is operational now on develop, and we have an open PR now that I think backports another something 15 changes and dashification and other changes. So it seems very likely to me that we will deliver V20 with GUIX. And I've mentioned this a number of times, but one of the big benefits of that is it's just a better kind of build environment in a lot of ways, but one of the big benefits is that it will allow us to deliver universal binaries for macOS, which will enable native running on ARM for macOS. Other stuff like asset locks is waiting on us to basically wrap up to finally release V19. The development work is done, and it's been reviewed, but it hasn't been merged yet. So that maybe we should mark it as reviewed in green, but generally on these, we keep something as in review until it's actually even merged into the repository. So yeah, lots of backports and lots of improvements in GUIX, as well as, the testnet fixes and stuff that we talked about earlier. You can go ahead and look at the merged PRs for the past 2 weeks if you're really interested. And just briefly, the documentation changes under V19 here at the top. Those are going to be merged into the DashPay dips repo when we are releasing V19. So if you are interested in those dip changes, you can look at the pull requests on the DashPay dips repo. Yeah, that is it about current development. We're going to move on to the Q&A section. Balázs, take it off.
All right, thank you very much. So we talked a lot about when Evo, but would you, Sam, if you are here, would you mind to have a brief overview? What are the steps ahead of us?
Sure, but nobody's actually asked when Evo in the last.
A lot of people.
No, they only asked in the first 5 minutes. They haven't asked recently. Can we get guys? Can we get a when Evo, please? We haven't gotten it for a little bit. There it is. Thanks, guys. I knew I could count on you. So, oh, my video is not on. So basically, we have this. Well, we have the V24 that should go out on a DevNet this week. We're going to be updating as soon as it hits a DevNet. I'm going to be updating the community on Discord saying we hit a DevNet. We'll hit a DevNet if things are stable on the DevNet for just a few days. We'll move it to a testnet, right? The reason we don't want to go to a testnet right away, even though the platform's not working on testnet, is because it's a lot more work to deploy. And then we tell incubator, hey, we got it on a testnet. And then if it goes down like 1 day later, well, that's not great for anybody, right? So we just want to make sure it's working on a larger network. We've tested locally on like networks that are very, very small, like fake networks on our own computer using Docker and et cetera. But it's not the same thing as a DevNet that's like 20 members big. So DevNets, as soon as it's stable there, we go to testnet. And then we enter the testing phase. Now, again, we're not like, what I think is going to happen currently is I think we're going to enter a DevNet this week with a v24 version. We're also probably, and
A beta.
yeah, what? Well, v24 beta, yeah. It's the work that me, Wisdom, Lukasz, Dima, and Evgeny are working on, which is the executor port update. If we make that in time, well, and we're also going to send that to a DevNet, and then we're going to see, okay, basically, does this work better? Are there less bugs? Is it faster? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If the answer is yes, then we'll probably go with that. If the answer is no, then we won't. If the answer is, well, they work about the same, then we'll probably go with the new Rust version, because that's the direction that we wanted to go in anyways. So that's going to be kind of the next 2 weeks. By the next sprint review, we'll be on a test net, and Incubator will be writing contracts, and we'll hopefully be in the testing phase, and we'll be able to update people on our testing plan and how we're going to test this whole thing, how we're going to review code, how we're going to polish some areas that we know probably are a source of sources of non-determinism. This process is going to go on, as I previously said, for 2 months. Once we are done with that, we will have the release candidate. The release candidate will be the version that, we're done with. We expect this to go to mainnet. There's no more features. There's no more fixes that we need to do. There's no more anything. This is the one we're happy with. At that point, we put it on it will be on testnet, and we'll ask the community to hammer it as much as possible. I'm sure they will do that already on the betas, but this is the one, and we run it. We leave that version feature frozen, basically for most likely a month, because going anything faster than that probably is not going to happen, and then it's going to be on mainnet. The mainnet deployment actually happens with v20 fork. So Core will have a v20, and basically the v20 just starting will signal money going into platform, and the money going into platform basically makes platform run. Because there's an incentive for the system to work, so people will have their nodes. Between v19 and v20, the high performance mass nodes will just be high performance in name. You can register them, but they will not be running platform on mainnet. They'll just be ready to run platform. So it's a transition period where they will basically, it's to make it so when we do get to platform, we will have the number of nodes already there, and the system will have already stabilized to the desired levels. Cool. Does anybody have any questions about all this?
Right. I guess we can wait for those questions. Or do you mean from the team?
No, for other people.
Okay. All right, let's see some other questions. I'm not sure we are qualified to answer those, or some of those are. Okay, let's see. Will Ryan, I guess Taylor, come back?
No.
We don't have any information on that. Are people still using Dash? It's a kind of public information, so you can look at the transactions. Yeah. When can we expect platform v24 on testnet? So yeah, we already addressed that as well. Okay, let me know if I miss. Once platform v24 on testnet, can HPMN on testnet fully connect to L2 platform services?
One's platform v24 on testnet.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
When more fast mine?
So fast mine is impossible because there is no mining in platform. It is fully connected to core, and there can't. In fact, there is a checks and balances system that makes it impossible for a inflationary bug. So you can't have more value being created because it is linked to the amount of value that was ever put in platform and removed from platform. And there's actually a sum tree that verifies this cryptographically. So basically breaking that sum tree would be as hard as breaking something like two-factor auth.
All right, thank you. Okay, James Doe asks, new contracts for DCG?
He's just trolling.
Okay. Can you talk about the transition into HPMN? Will we need a certain about on the network?
There was a mistake in
amount on the network?
Well,
Can you
yeah,
talk
so,
about the transition into
yeah,
HPMN?
So the transition will happen the full length of V19. So yes, we will need a certain amount on the network for platform to run. So we need at least 100 nodes for platform to run. But if there were only 100 HPMNs, the HPMNs would be making out like bandits when V20 hits. So I think that our calculation is that there should be 460 HPMNs for the system to stabilize at, so that's kind of how many we expect.
All right. I think there's nothing left. Then thank you all for being here and asking questions and giving us feedback. And if we have nothing left, I think we can wrap it up. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.